If someone doesn't like you, let them. Let them have their own feelings about you because you've got more important things to do. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know what your values are, and you ain't for everyone, boo. I'm Amy Porterfield, ex-corporate girl turned CEO of a multi-seven-figure business. But it wasn't all that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the budget, and the time to focus on growing my small but mighty business. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, and you'll see the business I have today. One that changes lives and gives me more freedom than I ever thought possible. One that used to only exist as a daydream. I created the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're an ambitious entrepreneur or one in the making who's looking to create a business that makes an impact and a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Online Marketing Made Easy. I'm excited that you're here today because I feel like this is a special episode. Recently, I celebrated my 15th year as an entrepreneur. And over the past 15 years, I've learned more than I would have ever imagined for myself. And my takeaways are what I want to share with you in this podcast. So it's not so much about me and my 15 years, but what I learned that you can apply to your business, to grow your business, to scale your business, and more importantly, to create a freedom-focused business. That's my goal for you. Whatever freedom looks like for you, I want that for you. And I think that entrepreneurship is literally the path to get there, but you got to make sure that you do it on your terms, your way. And I think some of the lessons I've learned could help you kind of shape what it means to grow your business and create a freedom-focused business on your terms. So I want to share with you that these lessons were very hard-earned, meaning I don't want to go back and repeat any of them, but I always subscribe to the motto, everything is happening for me. So it might have been tough. I might have wanted to crawl under my table or jump into the covers and cover my head and cry when I was going through all of these, but I know they have all shaped me. So that's the good news. So I'm talking about the lessons where I've crashed and burned and exposed myself in different ways that just didn't feel comfortable. So I'm going to talk about the lessons that really made me who I am today, but also were just really, really tough. And I hope that you can sidestep some of them. But with a lot of these lessons, you might not sidestep them. You might be deep into some of the challenges I had that led to the lessons. You might be in it right now. So just remember, everything is happening for you. And at least when you hear me talk about these lessons, you can either say, ooh, I'm going to try to avoid that, or, ooh, I'm in that, or I've been there. Amy's been there as well. So I'm not alone in this. I'm not different. I'm not unique. I'm not wrong. I'm just an entrepreneur trying to make it happen. That's what I want you to think and feel as you learn these lessons. Okay, so let's get to them because this is a shorty episode. So I'm going to go quick. The first hard-earned lesson I learned is that if you can develop thicker skin through this process of entrepreneurship, you will be better off. I've talked about this on the podcast over and over again. I'm a very sensitive person. I have been since I was really young. I feel for other people deeply. I feel all my emotions deeply. I wear my feelings on my sleeve. If you are a friend of mine, you will know that I can't hide it. When something is upsetting me, when something's on my mind, I wear it all over my face as much as I try not to. And while there are aspects of my sensitivity that are positive, it makes it really hard, though, to keep a poker face in, let's say, negotiations or having tough conversations with colleagues or partners or employees. Like when I was going through my really hard partnership breakup, which I talk about in my book, 2 Weeks Notice, I would have to be in meetings and literally tell myself, don't you cry. Don't you dare cry. Now, listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with crying. I cry all the time. But in a situation where you are negotiating how much money you're going to pay to a partner for them to leave, crying the whole time is not really the ideal scenario, right? So in those times, I really had to tell myself, Amy, you got to just hold it together until you're alone and you can just, or with Hobie, and you can just let it all go. But I struggle with things like that. I just really can feel all the emotions quickly. Okay. So why am I telling you this? Well, number one, going back to the lesson, I do believe that if you can have thicker skin and remember that this is business and it's not necessarily when things happen, it's not against you or because of you. It just, this is business and things are going to happen. And also, if you can have thicker skin so that you don't make it mean something so instantly. This is something I've learned along the way. So part of my feeling of getting emotional or wanting to cry is if something's happening in my mind, I'll say, oh my God, I made a mistake. I'm the reason this is happening. I messed up, or I'm not smart enough, or I really shouldn't have done that. And I'm beating myself up. And that's where the tears usually tend to happen. I feel shame or guilt or frustration. So right away, the thicker skin for me is not creating a story that's not real around something that happened, and to just stay in the moment and find the solution and stop creating more and more stories that aren't serving me. That is what having thicker skin looks like to me, which is more so managing your mindset. Now, on the flip side, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but my business coach, Michael Hyatt, he feels as though my sensitivity is a superpower because he says you can be both strategic and empathetic. And when he said that to me, because I really struggled during my book launch of just being really sensitive about things that were happening. You have to really be vulnerable during a book launch and put yourself out there and ask for a million favors. And I just really struggled with it. And so I said, Michael, teach me mental toughness. And he said, you don't need mental toughness, Amy. You are strategic and you are empathetic, and that makes you a really good business owner. You stand in that. So it's almost like he gave me the permission I didn't know I needed in order to embrace who I am, because I was born sensitive and I'm going to die sensitive. That it will never go away from me. So I do think that his wise words allowed me to love on my students at a higher level than maybe some other marketers, because my students can feel that I get them. I've been there where they're at. And I also know that it's not easy every step of the way. And so I just have a lot of empathy for all of you as I watch you grow your business, and just know that you're in the thick of it. And I know that can be really hard at times. And so I can be strategic and empathetic, and that is my superpower. So thicker skin and understanding my superpower, those are some lessons that I learned along the way. Not in an easy way, but I finally have learned them. Now, one tool that has been helpful for me in managing my sensitivity is something that Mel Robbins teaches. And she alluded recently that she's writing a book about this concept. So I'm very excited about it. But she teaches this concept called let them. Have you heard Mel Robbins talk about this? So basically, if someone doesn't want to invite you to the table, whatever that table means to you, let them. It's their thing, not yours. Meaning they've got to deal with some issues. It's not about you. Let them. If they don't want to invite you to the mastermind, or if they don't think you're good enough to come on their podcast, let them. It's about them. It's not about you. If someone says something to you that is hurtful, just let them. Let it roll off your shoulders and get on with your day, because it's more about them than it is about you. If someone doesn't like you, this one's hard for me. If someone doesn't like you, let them. Let them have their own feelings about you, because you've got more important things to do. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. You know what your values are, and you ain't for everyone, boo. Literally a chapter in my book, 2 Weeks Notice. You ain't for everyone, boo. And so we have to let people have their own experiences, do what they're going to do. We can't control them. It is more about them than it is about you. So we're just going to let them. You're going to put your head down. You're going to get your work done, and you're going to serve your audience at the highest level. I think this mentality has really helped me release a lot of things that I would normally not only be sensitive about, but obsess about, if I'm being really honest, and talk to Hobie about it to the point that he's like, I can't talk about this with you anymore. There's no resolution here, like that kind of thing. I want to stay away from that, from annoying my husband too much. So the let them mentality, I'm really excited about the book to come out so we can get into it deeper. But just the surface concept absolutely resonated with me. Okay, number 2, in terms of lessons learned, I have learned that managing and supporting my mental health is one of the most important things I can do as an entrepreneur, not just as a human being, but I'm specifically talking about owning a business, growing a business, running the show. Managing my mental health is more important than any funnel I create, any webinar that I do, any list building strategies I teach. I've dealt with depression throughout my entire life, and I've had anxiety, which I never thought I'd have to say, over the last 3 years. The minute I moved to Tennessee, I don't know what happened, but I experienced anxiety for the very first time. And my anxiety went unmanaged for 90% of the time in 2021. That's when I first started. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was just part of my depression. So that was something I was used to. And so it genuinely was unmanaged. I had a really hard time managing my emotions around a lot of things related to my business. Some days, I hate to admit this, but in 2021, there were days that I would get on Zoom calls with my team members. And luckily, they were team members that I was close to. I think most of them were on the leadership team, which I meet with on a regular basis. And I would just cry and I'd say, please just ignore the tears. Just ignore the tears. I'm having a rough day, but I want to be present here. We just got to ignore it. Like that's how bad it got. Or some days I would tell Hobie, I don't even want to get out of bed today. Now, I know that sounds like depression, and I think a lot of it was, but for me, anxiety is my mind is running, will not stop. That's what anxiety feels like to me. Depression feels like a dark cloud. And I definitely had that in 2021, but the anxiety just like sent me over the top, to be quite honest. The way I got through it was not in a healthy way. I just stayed busy. I used busyness to squash my emotions. I have consistently now worked with a therapist over the last few years. And I actually have a new therapist where she specializes in helping you regulate your nervous system. So her philosophy is, Amy, you're going to have anxiety probably for the rest of your life, but I can give you tools to manage it when it's happening. And that has served me well. And I know I'm extremely privileged to be able to afford a therapist in the way that I do. But I also think that it's the best way I could be spending my money right now. And truth be told, even when I didn't have the money I have today, I wish I would have just taken this more seriously, especially the depression, because that's been going on since the day I started this business, because I really believe that business is so much easier when my mental health is in check. So I wish that I had immersed myself in self-help books around depression, or listen to podcasts to help me, or join programs. I do think there are other options out there than having to take out your cold hard cash to get the support you need. But if you are dealing with depression or anxiety, I'm no doctor, obviously, but I hope that you will find the tools and resources you need. Hobie and I now have a language that we can communicate, because before, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Sometimes the people in your life that you love the most have no idea what to do with you or for you. And many of the times Hobie would just look at me and he's like, what can I do? But he felt very much ill-equipped and at a loss. And so now he'll say, okay, so let's talk about the resources you have. And there's this nasal spray that I take. It's called C-Link. I'm not recommending it at all. A doctor gave it to me, but he'll say, did you take your C-Link? Or he will say, okay, well, why don't you call your therapist and let her know what's going on? And she could maybe give you some tips to get through, the rest of the day. Or he'll say, okay, why don't you go get your Apollo watch? I talk about this in my newsletter. If you're on my newsletter, I give like little fun tips of stuff I'm loving. It's not a watch. It's called Apollo. And it does this vibration thing to help with anxiety. It helps immensely. So now he's like, let's talk about some resources and tools. So I have built up a toolbox over the years. And this is something that I wish I did 15 years ago. So, lesson learned, I can now pull from a toolbox of multiple things that I've learned, simple things that don't cost anything, and then some stuff that does, that has served me well. Okay, so along those same lines of learning how important my mental health was to my entrepreneurship, same with physical health. I've absolutely been on a roller coaster with my weight my whole life. And in the last 2 years, people have been commenting on my weight loss recently, but I started in February 2022, changing my overall health. And I've done many, many things. And I don't want to get into all of those because everyone has a different journey with weight loss. And also, I don't want you to think you need to lose weight. I don't even want to be that person to be like, lose weight to be happier. I believe I did not need to lose weight to be happier, but I also didn't feel good. I was tired all the time. And to be an entrepreneur, and being tired all the time and can't focus because of what I was eating and not moving my body, it did not serve me. So now I've fully changed my eating habits, and I have a trainer that comes to the house 3 days a week, and we do weightlifting primarily. And that has really served me well. And then I try to walk almost every day now and take Scout for a walk. So that has helped me. And really, it's not about losing weight anymore for the first time in my whole life. I literally got into the gym this morning and I told my trainer, I need to do this because I need to manage the anxiety this morning. I'm feeling it and I got to manage it. And at the end, I went into the house and Hobie's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, 20-30% better just from getting out and moving my body. I will never love working out, but I do like what it does for my mental state and my physical body as well. Okay, so the third biggest lesson I've learned, actually by accident, is how important it is to be known for one thing. So this is a totally different area of learning, so very different than what I just talked about, but the importance to be known for one thing, which for me is teaching people how to create and launch digital courses. Now, when I first created Courses That Convert, a program I used to have a long time ago, I never in a million years thought, this is my thing. This is what I'm going to be known for. It was not a conscious effort. And I think that could give some of you a little sigh of relief, knowing like I didn't become known for courses consciously from the beginning. Now, when I saw what it was doing for my business, yeah, I made the conscious effort to go all in. But in the beginning, what it was is, oh, this is working. Oh, people continue to ask me about this. Oh, I'm making great money with this and I'm getting people results. Like, this is my path. So what would happen if I'd lean into it? What a lot of people do where they struggle in entrepreneurship is that happens for them too. Oh, this is working. I'm seeing a little bit of momentum here. I made some good money, not as much as you want to make, but hey, I converted well. And then they go on to something new because we love variety as entrepreneurs and we want to try all these new things and we want to be lit up all the time. I think that is death of an entrepreneur. If you really think of the most successful entrepreneurs, they are all known for something. And I think it's important that you do the same. And listen, I'll admit that it is really exciting to change things up and try new things and have new programs and products and all of that, but it slows you down and it really confuses your audience. One day you're talking about skincare, the next day you're talking about parenting, and then you talking about Instagram. It's like, where are you here? And I've seen it a million times. So my advice is that everything you're interested in, all your hobbies and interests don't need to be monetized. I learned this a long time ago from Marie Forleo. Everything you love doesn't need to make you money. So why not find like one or two things around the same topic, of course, to go deep with, let that make you money, and then let all the other things just be fun. Because when you tie dollar amount to it, it's not as fun. I'm just going to tell you. Gardening, I'm starting a garden here in Nashville. That sounds like a lot of fun. But if I decided to turn that into a business, which will never happen, no one will ever want my gardening tips. But if I did, it would be challenging to me. It would spark something in me. It would get me going. I'm ambitious like that, but gardening would never be as fun. It's just a different experience. So remember that you can have interests and hobbies and you don't have to monetize everything. Your golden ticket is to be known for something. Number 4, true friendships are tough in entrepreneurship. This is something I've learned over the last 15 years. One of the things I've gotten wrong is assuming that the people I do business with are also my really good friends. I used to think that because if I really like someone and we are doing business together and they liked me back, that we are just instant friends and on a different level. Now, sometimes that's true, but not all the time. I just thought it was true all the time. This assumption has caused me a lot of heartache over the years, especially because I'm so sensitive. On the flip side, I haven't really been a great friend. And many of my quote unquote friendships have been transactional. And that's my fault. I didn't realize that. So, how can you be really good friends with someone if you're like, okay, I'll promote this and you promote that for me? That is not real friendship. So, my therapist and my friend Jenna Kutcher both brought this up to me separately and said, all your friends are in the business with you. This is a while ago. You need some friends that are outside of your world so that you don't feel like you either want something from them or they want something from you, or that you have to talk about business all the time. I recently did a podcast where I said a group of us women entrepreneurs did a weekend trip and we said, okay, we're talking business. And I said, like, women don't talk about business enough like men do. And I want to normalize women talking about how much money they make and what they're doing in their business and the strategies. I want that to feel really normal for women because I promise you it feels very normal for men. I've been in enough rooms. Well, so I was saying like this mastermind was strictly business, but there is a time and place to not talk about business, right? I can't be always on and always striving and always working. And so my therapist was saying, I'd love for you to start building some friendships that they don't know you for business. They're not going to ask you for advice. You're not going to ask them for advice. These are just really good friends that you just have shared interests and you talk about things that have nothing to do with business, which is hard for me. I'm going to admit it's very hard for me, but I recently did it. I'd like to just say, and I have a new friend and she is in a totally different world, healthcare essentially. And I love spending time with her. And she could care less what I do or how much money I make or if my webinar converted. She doesn't care. And I really love that. And I think that has been important for me. So the lesson essentially was I need to learn to take relationships for what they are and not make them into something that they're not, because that's putting undue pressure on that person to be a certain way for me to want to engage with them. And that is just not fair. So I have started to learn how to separate relationships in business and then true friendships. And I will say, absolutely, I have some very true friends that are in the business. Like if I think of my friend Stu McLaren, and I called Stu, and I've told Hobie this before, Stu and I talk about business all the time. And if I called Stu and I said, Stu, Hobie's sick, God forbid, and I'm crumbling over here, will you come to Tennessee? I can guarantee you that man would be on a plane tonight. I can't say that about a bunch of people, but like if I think of Stu, he'd be on a plane tonight. And I have multiple friends that would do that, and they're in the industry. So I'm not saying they're all not friends, but I need to be a little bit more discerning about what the relationship really means. And there is nothing wrong with a business relationship, but let's not make it murky and into something it's not, because that's where the hurt and the frustration and the resentment happens. And that's all on me when it happens. It's not on the other person. So big lesson I've learned along the way. Okay. Number 5, this is getting way longer than I wanted it to get, but let's just go for it. Number 5, growing a team is really scary. And the most difficult thing I deal with regularly as a business owner is trying to find the right people. Now, I have a team that works on job descriptions and hiring and interviewing and onboarding. I don't do it alone, but because I own the business, I am constantly thinking about how difficult it is to build a team and keep people really, really happy. And when I say it's hard to build a team, it's the things that are hard. I want to be specific here. Having hard conversations with people I love. When I have to talk to a team member about their lack of performance and I know they are a great person, I just want to cry for them. I don't, for the record. I keep it together, but I do. Or letting go of someone wonderful because they're just not a great fit, or just the struggle of finding the right people, or losing team members to my peers in the industry. That's a hard one for me, for sure. And it's absolutely happened. Or handling difficult personalities. There's some people I'm sure you can relate on the team that just have different personalities than you. And sometimes they just like rub you the wrong way, or you just can't connect with them, but they're doing a great job and you got to figure it out. These are not easy things. I have a wonderful team of 23 full-time employees. We all have different personalities, different dreams, different visions, different opinions. And although I truly feel like the luckiest person on the planet to have the opportunity to work with them and create something truly beautiful, I will say with complete transparency that it comes with challenges. And so that one, if you're struggling with building a team, finding the right people, keeping the right people, you are not alone, my friend, because out of all my peers, we talk about this all the time. I think it just goes with building a business. And I wouldn't trade my team for the world, but it also is something that we struggle with. And so I just wanted to share, like, the lesson I learned is that this is just part of growing a business. And yes, it's really scary to grow a team. And I have to be willing to get out of my comfort zone, have the hard conversations, and do the things that are required to build the business that I want. All right, 2 more quick lessons. Lesson number 6, I've already mentioned this. And I think a really important lesson I've learned along the way is that every challenge I've had that has just almost knocked me to the ground, I believe has happened for me, not to me. As I mentioned in my book, 2 Weeks Notice, I talk about a partnership that I got into that almost mentally killed me. And at the time, it made me question whether I ever wanted to be in this industry or keep working or keep building the business. But in retrospect, I've realized that it needed to happen. That horrible year of getting out of the partnership needed to happen for me to be who I am today and have the kind of business I have today. The lesson is hard things are going to happen. They might even make you want to quit it all. But if you look at these hard times as an opportunity to grow, you will be better for it. The final lesson here, number 7, if I could think of the 10 worst days of my entrepreneurial journey, they're still better than the best days as an employee at a 9-to-5 job. That is a lesson I've learned. The worst days in entrepreneurship, I would still rate them better because I'm free, I'm my own boss, I'm calling the shots, than some of the best days I've had in my 9-to-5 job. And that's because I've learned just how important freedom is. And at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I am totally free. I'm writing my own story, and I love that. I also get immense joy from knowing that I'm serving a community of other entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, helping them find their freedom too. I get up in the morning for that. And so on the hard days as an entrepreneur, I just had one yesterday. I went to bed feeling really lousy last night. Nothing worked out as planned, and I had a horrible night of sleep because of it. So even on those hard days, they're all worth it. And part of that is, and I don't want to sound cheesy or way too sentimental, but we already confirmed I am, is because I get to serve you. And if you've ever purchased one of my courses or been in my community, I feel really, really grateful for that. And I hope I've added value to you. And I hope that I've been an example of what is possible. And I hope on the hard days, I've helped you get back up and keep going just based on some of the lessons you've learned. If I could be a tiny part in your journey, finding freedom and building a business, I am so lucky. I feel like I could cry right now. I'm so lucky. So thank you for letting me do what I do because I am forever grateful. Okay, so that got a little sappy at the end. Let's bring it all together. I like my shorty episodes to be 15 minutes or less. This one went way too long, but I do think it's important to share the lessons along the way. And I'm always eating up other people's lessons that I can learn from them as well. So hopefully you found this valuable. Thank you so much for following along and being a part of my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm wishing you so much success on yours. I'll see you on Thursday for more entrepreneurial goodness. Bye for now.